person who's, I don't know, allergic to gluten, dairy, cane sugar, and soy, but you want to drink some wine. What do you do? Like, how do you make sure that you're not drinking wine that is actually going to make you sick?
Right. So there are a couple things that you can do. The first thing I would say is don't buy wine at a grocery store. Don't buy wines that you see on billboards. Don't buy wines that you see in magazines. Don't buy wines that you see on the sides of trucks. They're not good.
Wow.
Commercially produced wines, these are what I refer to as commercially produced wines, are typically just chemical cocktails.
Oh God, a chemical cocktail?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things you're told to avoid.
Right, it is. So the other thing that you can do is find a person who's a wine professional like myself, or like someone who works at a wine shop who's familiar with all the way that these wines are made, and trust them and tell them what your restrictions are, tell them what you're concerned about being in your diet, or what you're allergic to, and let them sort of guide you to wines that are going to be safe for you and good for you, and that you can enjoy and not worry about.
Mm-hmm. So what are some key words that you can look for to ask so you can walk in and not feel like an idiot when you walk into the wine store?
It's best to start with, I'm looking for a natural wine. Natural wine is a growing sort of word in the wine industry right now. These wines have been made the same way for thousands of years. This is not a new method of making wine. It's actually the oldest method of making wine. These are the wines that people in small villages in Europe still drink and always have. I notice when I go to Europe and I drink these wines, or when I drink them at home, if I have them at home, I can have several glasses of wine, wake up the next day, feel fresh as a daisy. It's not the wine that's giving you a hangover. It's the chemicals and mostly the sugar.
Oh, wow.
That's in the wine. Things that you can look for on your own if you find yourself without guidance.
Just wandering the internet.
Wandering the internet. Late at night.
I'm trying to buy some wine.
Biodynamic wines. Biodynamic wines, certified or not, tend to have fewer of these additives. They're not an absolute safeguard against the additives, but they're definitely better than conventional wines. And you have a much better chance of getting something that's safe that way. Wines that are unfined and unfiltered, it'll say on the label in most cases whether that's true. That's going to help you avoid things like gluten, egg whites, the fish scales if you're vegan.
So unfined and unfiltered, does that mean that there's like lots of sediment?
It can, yeah. It doesn't always. It depends on the way that the winemaker chooses to draw his wines off from the barrel. And it also has to do with how much time the wine spends on its lees, which is the grape skins and the yeast cells. So it can mean there's a little bit of sediment in the bottom of the barrel, or in the bottom of the bottle, but it doesn't have to. And sediments, there's nothing wrong with sediment.
Just fiber.
It's just fiber. It's good for you. It's life-giving. So if you don't want sugar in your wines, if you don't want sugar in your sparkling wines, you want wines that are no dosage. So dosage is a process where they add sugar, mostly to champagne, sometimes to other sparkling wines, and you want to say no dosage.
No dosage.
No dosage. And then if you're looking for that, it'll say on the label, if it's French, if it's champagne, it'll say vin no dosé. And other wines will say, no sugar added or things like that. The other thing that you want, if you're concerned about sugar, you want to make sure that the wine is not chaptalized.
Chaptalized.
Producers chaptalize wines to continue the fermentation process to increase the levels of alcohol, because yeast needs sugar to survive. So they'll do that to keep the alcoholic fermentation going. I would say the last thing that you're going to be able to tell on a label, or that is a sort of a word that you can say to a wine professional that will cue them into exactly what you're looking for, is low or no sulphites added. No sulphites added will typically be on the label. Most wines have naturally occurring sulphites, just it's in the air. But the addition of sulphites to wine is something else that people can have a really strong reaction to.
And so with this information, people can imbibe and not feel terrible.
Exactly. People with allergies and people who also just want to drink healthy. It's, natural wine is basically the answer.
We are singing in